Hello, I am Rebecca, and I'm going to do another book report, or a book review. This one is by Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. It is the first book in the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice. And is there another author? No. She has other vampire books, but I haven't read them. This is a wonderful book. So we have the character. This tells us about the character vampire Lewis. How he becomes a vampire, how he meets Lestat and the other vampires in the city, and why he's a vampire. And eventually the conclusion of his purpose as a vampire. So basically, that's the whole book. You know, it's really good imagery. I love the imagery in the book. I think my favorite one is when they go to Paris, and he says that everything's dark, that the water's dark, the sky is dark, there's no light. So and also when you're human, you don't realize how colorful everything is. So, you know, you see that there's more color and lights and paintings and stuff. Whereas the humans, they see it, but they don't really appreciate it as that much because they're full of life. And the vampires aren't. So this one is also, again, there's a lot of good things. Also with love. They have themes of love, too. And fear. There's a lot of fear. Like, Lewis fears Lestat because he's killing everybody in the beginning. And Lestat is a very interesting character because he's retained throughout the novel. And of course, at the end, I'm not going to give it away, but at the end, you realize that this boy who's interviewing Lewis, that the boy gets some more information about other vampires. And he probably goes on interviewing other vampires and figuring out this story, this compelling story about love and fear and loss. So, of course, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. You just have Lewis Lestat, the young girl, who, all in part one, this is all divided into 4 parts. The first part being basically how he turns into a vampire and meets Lestat and has to deal with biting humans, but he's not really biting humans at that part. At that part, he's like biting animals. So he's like, oh, I'm going to bite an animal because I don't want to hurt humans. But when he does bite a human, it's like the heart is into me. It's into me. He can feel the heartbeat of the other person, and his heartbeat is kind of conjoining with her heartbeat, or their heartbeat, and therefore making their heartbeat the same. It's a really good book. Another part that is interesting, and that's really in part 1. Part 2, they go to killing Lestat, or trying to kill Lestat. And Lestat is a very interesting man because he's like a high class. And you kind of get sick of him too because he doesn't care as much. And there's a compelling, I think, towards the character of Lewis. If you ever thought, oh, I'll be a vampire, that'd be cool, right? No. Probably wouldn't. You'd be killing everybody. If you don't really like to kill people, you probably wouldn't want to be a vampire. So he basically turned this person into a vampire who was having a very bad day. And it has a little bit of background to the story too. Like I love his, he explains his family and how they were rich, and also his brother and how he died and stuff. And that depression really etched him. And it really did. In the end, though, it really did etch him. Well, the second part where they talk about them playing to kill Lestrat and stuff, and eventually succeeding, and then they go to this other place. I don't remember if it's Paris or New Orleans. They go somewhere else. And I looked it up, something like the Dead Sea or someplace. And they don't go to Paris yet, but they go and they don't meet anybody, but they do meet a vampire. And of course, he's really old, but he doesn't talk. And they end up fighting. So it's kind of an interesting take because they're like all gross and their flesh is like really gross, kind of like zombies almost. So you're like, ew, that's nasty. Like who would, but they don't comprehend. They're not smart. So then they go and this other guy goes crazy because he seen him and his wife was bitten by one, and it's got a lot of side stories in here too, which I like. But and then they find out that it's not an intelligent vampire, and so they end up killing him. Then they get out of that town and go to Paris. Well, Paris is a really nice picture. You have the love. You have so much art stuff in Paris. I mean, it's great. I've been there before. It's got a lot of stuff. So they go to Paris, and he meets Armand. Now, Armand is a very interesting character. He's another very interesting character. He's very, like, almost, when he's with him, he's more lively, and he's like, oh, the devil, the God perhaps made us. He's very like that, but he loves Lestrat. Not Lestrat, Louis. He loves Louis. He's in love with Louis. Just like Lestrat is almost in love with Louis, as we find out in the novel. Or close to the end of the novel. It's really good. It's, and so there's a lot of love, and Louis becomes a cold-blooded vampire. He's very cold now. And before he was very like, why are we vampires? Why do we exist? What's the purpose of us being vampires? Why do we live forever? Why do people have to die because of us? I want to know these answers. I want to know what the secret of our powers are, or if we have other powers. So he really wants to learn, and when he does learn, he realizes it's too late. When he loses Claudia, the girl that he loves, his love, and he's very compelled to her, he's attached to her. And what I really liked about this vampire is the attachment of, it's not a girl or father figure almost, but it's like you're taking care of this little girl. And it's also really, really good. Really, really good story. Armand says, oh, we'll burn her. She has to go now because she's got a grown-up with her. She's got to go now. And she doesn't leave, because she thinks she's okay. And Louis doesn't tell her that. And he's the one, anything. And Armand actually kills her. And which is interesting is that Armand kills her. And she dies, of course. And it's not only because, and the fact that Lestat, this like strong emotional relationship between all three of the vampires. Lestat's kind of like, you know, you care for me, you love me, that kind of stuff. And then, you know, she of course tries to kill him. He comes back alive, and eventually he's getting freaked out because he hated Lestat. And when he goes back there, it's almost like he doesn't really care about talking about that. You know, he didn't think that he'd be alive. He didn't think he would be there. So when he was there, he was like, oh, he's there. Oh, well. You know, but it's a really interesting book because Lewis's character develops. He's got humanity in the beginning of the novel, and then at the end of the novel, he doesn't have any humanity. Really good book. And the fact is, you've seen the movie. Movie's okay. I have to watch the movie again. But this book is a must read. It's got really great imagery of the characters, of the story, of compellingness, of love, of fear, of hatred. It's all in here. It's not really emotional, like it didn't make me cry or anything, but I felt it. I almost felt like the vampires' love was almost as hate. You know, they hated that and they loved that. So it was almost like that. It was hate. And same with Amand. Amand didn't really care about the girl. And he thought, oh, he'll forgive me and then he'll love me. And that's it. That's all he'll love. But it didn't act that way out. And so it's interesting. I love Amand when he realizes the fact that he cannot change Lewis, and he walks away. And he just like, I'll go my own way. And he doesn't take his coffin with him. He doesn't do anything. It's like he died almost. And but there is a book actually that is called The Vampire Moth. And I don't know if that's going to be his story, because there's different ones. There's also The Vampire Lestat, which is another book. But this is a really good book. And I highly recommend it. Although some people might not already know the end of the book, and some people might know what happens to the girl because they've seen the movie, and what happens to Lewis almost because they've seen the movie. I don't know. I have to watch the movie again because I think this book is awesome. So I recommend this book. Another thing that's really great about this book is the imagery. I love the imagery in this book. And how they compare, like, you know, all this bright stuff, all this happy stuff, and going to operas and stuff like that. Now I'm going to go into another thing. What I got a little bit of what I got for my birthday. Or for Christmas. I got Rebecca Alford Hitchcock's Rebecca. Millennium Actress, which is by the director of Perfect Blue. Really good movie. And Up. Disney's Up. So, these are really good films. And those are it. And I also got two plain ones, but they're in the box thing. Okay, the next book that I'm going to read is called Little Woman by Lucy May Alabot. So we will read this book and give you an efficient book review on The Little Women. So we will be gone now. And I do recommend I give this a 10 out of 10, actually. I don't, and I do highly recommend it, but I give it a 10 out of 10. It's a 10 out of 10 interview with the vampire. And tomorrow I will be starting this. I'm reading a chapter a day, so